My students call me by my first name. If after 15 minutes talking to me, you don't think I should be a professor and talk about what I'm talking about, then it doesn't matter what's hanging on my wall. So Mark Pittman took a bunch of us, I think mostly boys, from the Yarmouth area to Atlantic Baptist College. We were all in grade 11. And the chief said, Dr. Murray said that was fine for us to come up. So we came up for a few days during the week and into the weekend. And I really came to appreciate what was going on there. When I applied, after almost graduating from grade 12, getting near the end, I applied to a number of universities in the Maritimes, and no one wanted me except ABC. So I was happy about that. It seems to me that the Lord was very much involved in that decision. And so I showed up. Almost everyone lived on campus. And so we lived together, we prayed together, we played sports together. We're never very good at any of those, sports anyway. We just spent time together. Upon my arrival at Atlantic Baptist College, I encountered a small group of men who profoundly shaped my life, both as a Christian and as an academic and a teacher. They included Ralph Richardson and Bob Wilson, and then there's Stuart Murray and Seth Kroll and Doug Mance. At ABC, I remember taking religious studies, Old Testament and New Testament, from Ralph Richardson. And Ralph taught the Bible in a way that no one had ever taught it to me before. And I'll always be grateful for the brother for agreeing to God's calling and following him, because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that kind of teaching. And then Bob Wilson introduced me to history. History actually became my major when I carried on to Acadia University. One of the things I learned from Stuart Murray is I actually had a brain. I could actually work, read, study, and discover the truth of what people were trying to convey. I also took courses from Seth Kroll, and from Seth, it was just more about someone who was very much like the Jesus people I knew, who taught sociology, and he cared very much about society. And he was kind of like a big brother to us. So Doug Mance was really an example to me of someone who could live out the Christian life in a peculiar way without trying to live up to the expectations of people around him. And just follow Jesus. And he did. In my second year at ABC, the registrar from Acadia University came to visit those of us who were finishing with their Associate of Arts degree or diplomas. And he worked very hard, made a very good case for us to go to Acadia. And so Acadia was closer to home. I discovered that the way that I think naturally fit studying history and philosophy very well. And from that BA, I went into an MA program in history at Acadia University. And what was interesting as I went through those degrees in history, the skills that I had gained at ABC really prepared me, because we had such small classes at ABC and we could ask questions and so on. We were ahead of the game. I went to Eastern Ontario to pastor two churches, two small Baptist churches, while I was a PhD student at Queen's University. It was one of the most extraordinary times in my life as a Christian leader. I was working full time. I was essentially going to Queen's full time too. One of the reasons I went to Queen's University was to study with Dr. George Rawlick. George Rawlick, at that time, was the leading scholar in Canadian religion, and he was particularly interested in the Maritimes, and so that was a double draw for me. George helped me live for Jesus in a way that I had not before. And so it's not surprising, in part because of my relationship with him and his previous relationship with Atlantic Baptist College University. It was because of that he decided to give a large part of his library to our library here at Crandall. And the library itself bears his name, and also we have the Rawlick collection. I wanted to be an educator probably after I learned I had a brain. And it was really at ABC that I came to understand that I not only could read difficult things and understand them, but I had a desire to communicate those. And once I fell in love with the discipline of history, it just seemed to make a lot of sense. So I taught from 94 to 2014. So that 20-year period, for me, clearly some of the best times, best years of my life, because I got to teach. I got to do what I believe I was created by God to do, which is to teach. What really delighted me is when students came to have pride in their own work. It's not surprising then that there's a period in my 20 years of teaching here where over half of the honor students going on to grad programs to get MAs and PhDs, half of those were my honor students. I was using history to help students become what God wanted them to be, or what I believed God wanted them to be. As an educator at Crandall, my teaching was about discipleship for Christians and witness to non-Christians. It was like that at the beginning. It was like that before I even knew that was the case. And so that became kind of the bedrock of what teaching for me was about at Crandall University. I'm sure I learned more from my students than they ever learned from me. I know some people will just say that because, oh, well, that's what you're supposed to say, but that's not true for me. I really did learn so much. I don't know if I'm a man of deep faith or not, but I certainly have brothers and sisters. I have a loving wife, Kathy Rogers. I have people in my life who prop me up and help me through the challenges. I can remember on one occasion when I was so downcast that I couldn't pray. Sam Reimer came into my office. Sam Reimer's a buddy of mine, and he came into my office every morning, and we had the Book of Common Prayer, which is an Anglican prayer book. I read prayers, and Sam prayed for me. And that is probably one of the most touching examples of how my faith was involved in encountering the big challenges of life. Perhaps the biggest challenge that I have faced in recent years is the disease that I have, and it's called atypical trigeminal neuralgia. And it's a disease that brings incredible, just absolutely undefinable pain to the right side of the face. I can remember on one occasion when I was absolutely out of my gourd with the pain, and Kathy just behind me, holding me. Sorry. And Kathy just went behind me, held me, prayed for God's peace in the midst of that. And this was very early on in our marriage, and I knew that God was so present with us, and we would face this together. We didn't know. We had no idea what was happening and what this would mean for us. But we were going to face it together. And so my faith has always been buttressed, been built up by the faith of other people. And if I have learned anything in my Christian life, it is we do not walk alone. And woe betide the Christian who believes that he or she does not need the body of Christ. We belong to each other. If I suffer, you suffer. If you suffer, I suffer. We share it together. And together, Kathy and I have 4 children. And our children are all stable. They're doing well. We're so proud of what they have accomplished. And we look forward to what the future holds. We pray that God would bless them. So Kathy and I together have 6 grandchildren whom we love dearly.
Dr. Goodwin, Dan, what a privilege it is to be able to be part of the ceremony tonight where we recognize you as a distinguished alum of what is now Crandall University. We know when you attended, it was Atlantic Baptist College, and you came here as a young guy, and you went hard at it, and you proved yourself to be a scholar. And based on the foundation, I think, that you received here, you went on to study elsewhere and to earn degree after degree after degree, which prepared you eventually to come back and to teach here. We honor you tonight not only as a distinguished alum, but also as a distinguished former faculty member here at the university. For about 2 decades, you, along with Dr. Bustin, formed the backbone of the history department at the university, and you invested in students in such significant ways. You were an excellent lecturer. You brought great humor and joy to the classroom. You enjoyed spending time with students, but most of all, you enjoyed helping them look ahead to what could be if they buckled down, studied hard, and did well. You wrote lots of reference letters for grad school applications. You encouraged students to prepare themselves, and they went on and did well because of your investment in their life. One of the things I appreciated the most about you, Dan, was actually your commitment to scholarship. I think I've read everything that you've ever published, and I learned a lot from you. So I might never have been in one of your classes, but I feel like I have, because I caught the heartbeat of what you were interested in and what you wanted to contribute not only to Atlantic Canadian learners, but also scholars from throughout the world. Thank you for your investment in the students of Atlantic Baptist University. We've appreciated and enjoy your legacy here.
Crandall has had a bigger impact on me than any other thing that I could imagine in my life. And I'm not just saying that because I'm being awarded. Even when I look at my family, my wife has a degree from Crandall. I have a degree from Crandall. 2 of our children have degrees. 1 has half a degree from here, finished at St. Mary's. Even my son-in-law has a degree in business from Crandall University. Crandall has had a profound impact on my family, my extended family, and those students that I came to love. And not just because they performed well, but because they really were able to move beyond where they were and search for answers to questions. My legacy, I believe, is the students. It's not my reputation, which, if it's not gone, it will be gone shortly. But it's my students. They will carry on. And I'm not comparing myself to the Apostle Paul whatsoever, but I would say, if I have a legacy, it would be insofar as I have followed Christ and pursued that which is good and true and beautiful. I pray that my students will carry those on with them. Yeah. I've been lucky to live this life.